Welcome to Opinion Havers, a movie podcast for people who know who the real enemies are. The French. I'm Cody.
And I'm Tyler.
Tyler. What did you make us watch, Tyler?
Wait, which movie did you watch? Because I watched The French Connection, which is the movie you said we were going to do.
Hold on.
I have your text.
What did you watch?
I watched... What? Okay, let me read your text. You, me, and A French Connection. That's what you texted me. So I watched The French Connection.
No, hold on.
Did you watch Hercules?
I did watch The French Connection. No,
okay.
I watched The French Connection. Don't worry. And don't worry, I watched it like a month ago, so it's real fresh.
Good.
It's real fresh. We're going to rely on you because half these notes make a lot less sense now that I don't know the full context. It's going to be great. Tyler, do you want to just
hold on, Cody.
Synopsis
hold on. No, hold on. Hold on. Hold your horses here.
Right.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Here we are.
No.
Here we are. Okay.
What?
Turn your camera back on. All right. Turn your camera back on.
Kicked us out.
We were in the lounge room. You fool. We were in the lounge. We need to be in the recording channel. We got to restart the whole thing now. Okay. No, we don't got to restart probably, unless I don't know. Don't got to restart my side anyway. Cody, let me tell you about this movie. I don't know what was happening in it. Like, it's at no point did the movie lose me. Like, I always knew what was going on, but I was like, it was more of a why kind of a, I guess, not like what is happening, but it's like, you know, when everybody loves a thing or like a song and you're like, but the song sucks, right? That's how I feel about the movie, right? So that's how I would sum up the movie. It's like, imagine if everybody loved a cop show, but then you went to go watch The Wire and it was like a really bad, like poorly shot, rip off of like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or something like that. Like,
I mean, the camera work on like early to mid 2000s prestige TV does not hold up. It's very much like, you just put a soap opera on HBO. What are you doing? You know?
Oh yeah.
I thought you had HBO money on this production.
Look, they thought they knew what they were doing, but
like The Sopranos just looks like a sitcom. Like when you just look at a still of The Sopranos, you're like, is this Everybody Loves Raymond? I'm really confused. This looks like an episode of Frasier.
I'm so glad you brought this up.
Didn't this come out like 8 years after Frasier? Why does it look like Frasier?
Cody, let me tell you, I have been thinking about this for a very long time. Okay. Because I see clips, I see them like through my stints where I'll go through phases where I'll be on TikTok. Right now, I'm not on TikTok very often, but like when last time I was, The Sopranos was popping off. I think they were trying. I think it was a conspiracy, right? Because I saw it enough where it's like, I feel like somebody's trying to make this pop off. But it's
I
not
saw a bunch of
off.
Soprano stuff over the last few months.
Okay,
like
so is it
and like
off?
people in interviews were like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, Soprano." It's like, I don't know what happened, but yeah.
I think it's like viral marketing.
It's been having a moment.
These people who did the Smile campaign, they've gotten all kinds of stuff. These people know how to manipulate society. Okay, I don't know what company it is, but I bet it's them. I'd put money down on. Okay, but every time a clip of The Sopranos pops up, I'm just like, all right, I'm waiting for it. And then it ends and I'm like, that wasn't funny at all. Like, where was the joke? Because like you said, it's shot like a sitcom. It looks like a sitcom. Man. All the actors look like they're like just normal TV sitcom actors. Like everything they're saying, the dialogue is like the dialogue in a sitcom. Everything is screams NBC Thursday night sitcom, but it is not.
I know very little about The Sopranos. That's about the only thing I know about it is what I've seen. I'm like, why is this shot like this? I don't understand.
From what I understand, it is the most hardcore, like realistic, like mob. Like it's like if The Godfather was a TV show, is like what it's supposed to be and what it is, right? But it looks like a sitcom.
Love it. I'm gonna have to watch that one. Tyler, let's talk about the French Connection.
It's yeah.
Well, we didn't describe the plot at all.
Okay, I'll give you a real rundown.
Your hot
no,
take.
I'll give you a real rundown. Okay, because I want to give this movie the best shot that I can. Okay, for you to pull me out of this nosedive. Okay, so the movie follows, and I'm not reading anything. Okay, here I'm not looking at any notes. It follows Popeye,
yeah,
and other. Okay,
yep.
Cloudy.
Brody.
I did look at his name, Buddy. Right, Buddy. Cloudy's his
Brody.
It's Buddy. I'm looking at Cloudy and
no,
Buddy.
But he's Brody from Jaws.
Oh, bro,
so
you are right. It is
Brody.
That is what I recognize. I was looking at all their IMDb's trying to figure out who these people are.
Yeah.
So Popeye, he's a hard cop, but he's a good cop. You know, like is back in the time when being a douche but also a cop meant you were a good cop. You know,
right?
And he's racist. Cloudy's not that racist. And
your first synopsis way too broad. This one, way in the way.
But no, this is important for their characters. Okay, so they're there. They're in the narcotics division, which is never said until the very, very end of the movie. Just to be clear. No. So that, I guess that's a spoiler, but if how we normally do it. So sorry about that. Getting that too early.
We're burning through my notes because this is.
And then, but it's them, and they're trying to make a big bust, and there's some past, and there's some federal agents, and but the way it's supposed to be is these two detectives on the narcotics division of the NYPD trying to bust a big shipment of a city that's just trying to get well, Cody. All right. They're just trying to get well. Okay. Which I love that as a slang, right? Because it's like, Cody, they're just trying to get well. Okay. You know, just let these people be well. They're sick. They are unwell. They want to get well. And you're stopping them from that. Mm-hmm. But that means drugs. And it's like, there's no drugs in the city. All they've got is oregano and Tylenol. Right. And that's what it is. And the guy it's French person that's bringing in the stuff.
It's always the French. Well, Tyler, let me give you my hot take on it, because it sounds like you weren't thrilled. And I mean, I mostly agree with you. Like, I keep hearing this. The name of this movie's been floating around the ether the last 5 years, and so it's made it onto my gotta watch this list, I guess. And when it was called The French Connection, I'm like, oh, it's gotta be some sort of like a film noir something or other. And I was like, oh, it's a 70s cop movie? Wait, what? And I watched it, and I liked it, but I'm not sure this is in my like top 50 movies of all time. Gotta have it. Deserves the 5 Oscars it won kind of deal, you know? But I did like it.
I'll give you more of a succinct, I guess, hot take. I didn't like it. So many times we come into these Cody's Corner, and I come out reluctantly being like, this is a great movie, and I loved it, right? And so I kept waiting for it to turn, and then I'd say probably halfway through the movie, I kind of was just like, Tiffany said something to me, and I was just like, I don't know what's going on, but I understand what they're doing. Like, I get what they're doing. They haven't done anything complicated. They haven't lost me in the story. They've just presented it so poorly.
Okay. Well, there you go. I think that's enough. I think it's enough to get into it.
I feel like they tried to be the same thing as The Conversation, but The Conversation structured itself better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Do you want to take me?
Cody, let's just, let's hijack this car. Let's steal a car and just drive our way down to Spoiler Town, USA. Okay? Just cruise on into Spoiler Town, where we spoil things.
It's my favorite thing.
Like these guys being on the narcotics division.
Yeah. Can we do it? Do you want to go first or want me to go first?
If you think you can go, do you have 5 minutes where you can?
I can try.
Go first.
I sure can.
I'll let you go
Tyler,
first. Because it's
ready.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Tyler, I mean, look, people are mad. People are mad at Quentin Tarantino because he said the N-word and he writes scripts with the N-word, but he's white, all right? But I just watched a movie where a man said never trust an N-word. And you know, I didn't like it, all right? I wasn't enjoying the racism in the movie, all right? I mean, did that particular person stab him? I think so. I think that's why he said it. Still, you know, any criminal would have stabbed him in that scenario. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm getting chased by the police and I got a knife, it doesn't matter my complexion. I might use the knife. You know what I'm saying? He's just trying to get well. All right? Let this man get well. If Santa Claus is going to shake me down, I might bring out the silverware. You know what I'm saying? It's fine. Look, this movie starts up and it had some jarring opening music. And I'm sure maybe you can remember it because you watched it today. I don't remember exactly what it was. I just remember being like, wow, they are bringing it hard with this opening music. And then there was like no music for the rest of the movie. And because it was so loud to start, I was like, this is going to be an interesting score. And then there wasn't a score and I hated it. So that's that, you know, it's there. You talked about this movie losing you, even though it never, I was lost from the start. I'm not going to lie. There's like a whole start to this movie and they're like in France, I guess. And there's like stuff happening. You're like, okay, this is going to tie in somehow. I'm going to be honest with you. It's been a while since I've seen this movie. I don't remember how that opening part ties in even a little bit. The only thing I do remember is that somebody kills someone in France and he tears off the end of his baguette and leaves. You know, it's very much like a, leave the gun, take the cannoli, but the French version where it's like, no, just take the baguette. But not even the whole baguette, like just the crusty end bit. But let's be real. It's the best part of the baguette. I don't even need the insides of the baguette. I just need the crust. Just give me the French crusty bread, It's the most insulting part of the baguette you can take from it's like spitting on someone. It's like killing someone and spitting on them in France. You kill them and you take the good part of their baguette. They don't get the end of their baguette in heaven now. You know what? That's how it works, right? You kill them, you take the end of the baguette, and now they only have middle baguette in heaven. It's the ultimate insult to injury. There's also like a 5-minute scene in a lounge with some lady lounge singers singing about how they're gonna touch the moon, and I'm sorry, I don't know if they know how the moon works, but not everybody's going to the moon. They sing, it's like a whole song, and the song's like, can you believe that in our generation we're gonna touch the moon? It's like, no, astronauts are gonna touch the moon. No one here in this lounge is going to set foot on the moon. You know what I'm saying? It was a weird, my thing is like, why that song? Like, I thought they would sing like, I don't know, anything else from the Motown era. This is a song I've never heard before in my life, and its lyrics confuse me to no end. Do you know what it's like? Remember that song, Beautiful, the one that's like, you're beautiful, you're beautiful. Remember that one? It's from like the 2000s. That one, it's a song about a guy who saw someone on a train. And that's the whole song. And he hands it up for 3.5. He gets a 3.5 minute song. And he goes, I was there. I saw her. She saw me. We shared a moment. She left. I was like, that's the song. I was like, how did you get... This is not a story. How'd you get 3.5 minutes out of that? No one's going to the moon. I'm not going to the moon. Maybe my grandchildren go to the moon once we've like destroyed this planet. But it's not me. It's not you. None of those people are going to the moon. Why was that song in this movie? Okay, I got another note. I gotta figure out what crime they're trying to solve. It's drugs? Question mark. That was my note. I was right, but it was hard. It took me a lot of thinking to get there. But it was drugs. I mean, Brody from Jaws is here. Love it. It's great. There's one great thing about this movie. I got other stuff to tell you. It's so hard. I'm running out of time. All right. Let me tell you this. If there's one thing that was awesome about this movie, the chase scene, the camera work in it was actually really awesome. I loved the chase scene when the guy, the killer guy, tries to kill him. Then he's chasing him on the train. He's driving the car and trying to catch up to the L train. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. That's probably my
Cody,
favorite part.
I'm gonna have to.
So there's
I'm gonna
good
have to
stuff
cut
too.
you off. All right.
It's not all baguettes and people singing about the
I'm gonna
moon.
have to cut you off. Okay. And I'm gonna get into a real rant about this movie. All right. Right now. Okay. Let me go through because you covered like two things that don't in a movie that is filled with stuff that don't make sense. So let's start off with the beginning. The beginning. I rewatched the beginning and I was like, okay, I now understand the purpose of the beginning, which you shouldn't have to understand the purpose of the first 10 minutes of the movie the second time you watch it. Anyway, because it depicts the guy that I don't think is ever linked to the French Connection guy until way later in the movie, killing somebody who is, I believe, a cop in France that is following the main French guy. Thus being like, this is that guy's Jaws, like from James Bond, but also, like the shark, right? So he kills him, shoots him in the face. It takes his baguette, right? But that's what I think that was. But I had no idea what any of that meant the first watch through, right? And then they're like, then they show, Popeye and Buddy doing their stuff, but Cloudy. That's their code names, Everybody knows cops have code names. Doing, these cops, they're always dressed up as Santa. Here's the thing that's going to blow your mind, right? There's nowhere on this movie where it says it's like based on a true story, but there's all kinds of stuff where it's like, oh yeah, these extras were all people that took place in the real case. And I'm like, so this is based on like a real police case that happened. And these characters are all real police officers is what I take away from the movie, right? Because they're all like, it's like, yeah, like even them being dressed up as Santa, it's like, yeah, they did that because this cop was like, yeah, I used to dress up as Santa and I would start singing jingle bells whenever I saw a drug deal going down and they would come and arrest people and it worked. We got lots of arrests that way. It's like, talk about a freaking narc. Am I right? Santa, not a narc. All right. All the extras in that first bar, this is one of my favorite fun facts. Because it's like all the people in all of the bars, it felt like exclusively black people in these bars, which is like, this was filmed during a time, based in a time when it's like, yeah, because all criminals are black or French. And it's like, okay, like, calm down. There's a lot of, okay. I felt uncomfortable watching a lot of the movie. But I did feel more comfortable that he called everybody by their slurs, And so, okay, so let me get back to where my rant was going, right? Because they introduced the French guy. He's some importer thing. He was a longshoreman, whatever, salt of the earth kinds of guy. Definitely makes more money off of his import-export business than he would ever make off of drugs. Which I kept thinking to myself, like, why are you dealing in drugs when you're building a new port, like an extension to a major port in France? This is nothing. $500,000 would be nothing to you. And then, so then we come back to Popeye and Cloudy, right? They chase the guy down and he's like, you ever been to Poughkeepsie? You sit on the edge of the bed and you pick your feet. What does that mean? Because then later a guy asks him, "Do you still picking your feet in Poughkeepsie?" What is that? Is that slang for something? What does it mean, Cody? I don't know what it means. It says it's a thing. It's a good cop, bad cop thing. I like, like I thought that was funny, like him coming in like a crazy person, and then his partner like laughing when he's like, "I gotta listen to him complain about his bowling score the rest of the year," because you stabbed him. But also, they argue with each other. He's like, how was I supposed to know he had a knife? It's like, but you told him, watch out. He has a knife. And then the guy got cut. And you're like, why didn't you tell me he had a knife? When clearly, Your Honor, clearly Popeye stated, watch out. He's got a knife. Okay. So I think the ladies and gentlemen of the jury will find that he did tell him that there was a knife. Okay. But also, you think I said it, you said it, we all agreed on it, but it's not true. Popeye, racist, please. He says, never trust, an N-word, Cody. And then he says he could have been white. That's Cloudy trying to be like, hey, don't be that way. And then what does Popeye hit him back with? One of the best lines ever. It's rule number 1, Cody. The first lesson you learn in life: never trust anybody. Okay, that's what That's what you got to take away.
Oh, looks like your time's up, my guy.
We both got through the first 5 minutes of the movie.
So here's the thing: the notes I didn't get to were real story ? Oh, the credits say it was fake, but then I guess it was based on, like you said, some sort of a real case or something. I don't know. It was a little confusing.
I think it's fake story based on a real.
Well, I don't know. Real tactics and stuff that went on. Here's my thing. I got real confused at the end because they do, like, once again, a very kind of like sitcom-y / comedy college movie.
Where
thingy,
are they now,
like,
kind of
all
thing.
Right, let's roll some credits here at the end, and it's like, this person went on to do this, and this which I've only ever seen done in like college movies and comedies. So I was very confused when in this Oscar-winning drama, it was like, this guy never went on to live another day in his life. I was like, wait, hold on, okay, are these real people now? Because now I'm so confused, and I still, I don't know, I didn't like it. It's one of those things that it's so old that I'm like, did this start that or something? I don't know.
There's no way.
Because it's, for me, I want to see the story play out, right? That's what I want to see. And it's great for comedy because you can kind of, it's just like tagging on a little joke at the end of the movie, right? Where it's like, oh, this guy, he was the burnout dude. Oh, he became city mayor. You're like, haha, funny, great. Or like the nerdy guy, oh, he married a supermodel. Haha, funny, whatever. So it was a little jarring, a little confusing. Let me tell you about this. This movie has a sequel. It has a sequel.
I saw that.
You know what I'm saying?
I saw the sequel.
And let me tell you this. I knew it had a sequel. Did I start the sequel? Yes, I did. And I was like, you know what? I'll just watch the whole sequel. And I made it 15 minutes in. I was like, I don't think I have to do this. Let me just see what people say about it. It's like, people are like, oh, it's good. It's not amazing. If you like the genre, it's good as a genre film. It's not like as good as the first one, whatever. Well, today I found out there's a third. I was looking
to see if there was a third.
there's the French Connection 3, but it's a TV movie. It doesn't have Gene Hackman, whereas French Connection 2 does have Gene Hackman. And guess what? This time, ya boy's in France. So from what I got in the beginning of the movie, like, he goes to France to solve the crime, and the French detectives are like, we told you not to come. And then he's like, whatever, just follow us. And they're like, remember, this isn't your jurisdiction. Also, you can't have a gun. Also, I think and there's one part where he gets attacked by, you'll never guess this, a black person. And he's like, all right, how dare you, arrest this man. They're like, whatever, we're going to let him go. So it's just like, I was like, this is a weird sequel. It's like, this guy who shot someone in the movie, whatever, let's put him somewhere where he can't shoot any, it was just weird. It's like, it's a detective movie about a detective out of his jurisdiction. I was like, this is fantastic. I don't know who approved it. It made me laugh so much to be like, you're not supposed to be here. But then they're like, nah, all right, you can tag along. You can help us solve crime here too. I don't know. They just felt bad because he showed up. Anyway, this movie has a sequel, has a threequel. I didn't watch any of the threequel. I thought the twist was interesting at the end, and because it's like, he's gonna track down the guy. He got there. He shot him. Oh, but like, he totally shot.
Did you ever think that he wasn't gonna shoot that guy from the second he went into that building? Because I was like, oh, that's like, you're making me question if that French guy.
My
even
favorite
existed.
part is that he shoots him, and he's like, all right, we gotta keep running after him. It's like, you just shot your coworker.
You shot a federal agent, not even his coworker. Like, you just gunned down an FBI agent.
Oh man, yeah, it's my favorite that he's like, no, I'm just going right. So I mean, my takeaway from this is that, like, as a thriller, it has some really good elements. Like I said, that chase scene's really good. I think the final kind of climax is pretty good.
You liked the chase scene.
What's that? I liked it.
Interesting. We'll come back to that later. I hated
what? You didn't like that one?
Every minute
the train?
Because it makes no sense and it's so pointless. It's the stupidest chase scene I've ever seen. It's like, okay, let me walk you through it from my perspective, okay? I'm going to start with the two French guys talking. Okay. French Jaws, right? Is like, do you want me to kill him? And then French one, as they call him kind of, is like, no, it's not worth it. There will be more cops, And he's like, we'll be gone by Friday. And then it cuts. Hard cut away from that scene to something else.
He's the wild card. Every operation
it cuts to something else where something else is going on. So you completely forget about that happening. And then it's Gene Hackman in a random park next to abandoned buildings, I assume. Because he's able to go in and run up to the roof, which I don't know. Here's what I invite anybody to do. Walk into a random building and get up on the roof without anybody stopping you. Just do it.
Tyler,
just do it.
This is the 70s.
Just
this is
do
before
it,
they invented the padlock.
Just do it. Just
get
up
what I'm
on
saying?
that roof.
You didn't have a way to secure a building back then.
So then, this random lady gets gunned down. Then there's a little bit of a gunfight between a dude with a sniper rifle and a guy hiding behind a tree that's roughly 2 inches wide. So, and then he runs up to the roof where the guy's now gone, but he sees him on the ground, and then he chases him. Guy gets on the train. He shouts at him, "Stop that guy. He's wanted by the police," which is not true in reality. He's not wanted by the police. He's wanted by one police. Not the police. A police, yeah.
He's wanted by a police.
And then the train cop.
But then they'd be like, wait, is he Italian? Is there a man with a heavy Italian accent
Yeah,
who's a police?
but the train cop...
Now this is confusing,
Who?
It raises more questions when you say, there's a man wanted by a police.
But then another police wants him. The train police, who is black. So,
Okay.
Maybe he should have been less racist, okay? So then that guy starts chasing him.
Yeah.
And then gets gunned down. He just shoots him in the middle of the train, right? So we established there is now the dead body of a police officer in the train, right? Then goes up to find Coke, not the drug, the driver of the train. And then says, "Don't stop or I'll kill you." Right? Was what you say when you're hijacking a train. And then the train's conductor or somebody, right, is like, "I'll see what's happening. Why didn't we stop?" Followed by a mob of people. Presumably goes through the whole length of the train because they didn't see the scuffle. They didn't hear the gunshot. They got up to the front of the train. No red flags were raised by the dead body. And then they're like, "Coke, are you okay?" And then proceed to knock on Coke's door for like, what was it? 5 minutes? Just repeating, "Are you okay?" Look, if somebody doesn't respond, if somebody driving a train, you're pounding on the door, you get twice before they're not okay. They're dead. Like, you got to just assume they're dead at that point. You know what I mean? Coke, spoilers, Cody. Coke does die. He just dies after the train conductor gets shot by the guy. And then it all starts to go. But meanwhile, Gene Hackman has stolen a car and is slamming his way through traffic, which I did see in the trivia. I don't know if you spied the trivia. They didn't have permission to film in a lot of those areas, and that's real traffic that they're ducking and weaving through. They're not.
Yep. Did you see the other one that the crash wasn't scripted? So, and they just left it in the movie. They're like, that looked realistic. I'm like, yeah, because it really just crashed that car. What did I didn't finish that trivia, but it was like there was a dude. Where does it say? Car crash, unplanned. The man whose car was hit had just left his house a few blocks from the intersection to go to work, was unaware that a car chase is being filmed. They did pay the bill to repair his car, though. So there you go. This guy's trying to go to work.
See, that's like a different thing, I think, because this one just talks about the near collisions, but does clearly talk about, it's like the mom with the baby that almost got hit. That was scripted, that was planned and rehearsed. But the funny thing is it's like, oh no, they didn't have permission from the city to film. what they did was they got a ton of off-duty cops to stop traffic and direct it for an enormous amount of streets in New York. So I'm like, so this movie was just like the police just took over sections of the city. Like the city was like, no, you can't do that. And they were like, but we're gonna. That's basically what happened. Which I think is very funny. Because it's like they even like took control of traffic lights and stuff like that. But so then there's the thing where they cut in between the two. The chase, the car, slamming its way through traffic, and the train where they were just kind of shouting at each other, which I got a beef with that part later. But and then the train crashes and the car crashes, and then they both meet up at the stairs, and then he shoots him. Cut. All right, so they're in the car, they're doing something else. It's not brought up. It's not a thing that happened. Nobody gets yelled at. Nobody gets told like, "Oh, I'm glad you're okay." No, nothing. It doesn't add or take away from the case in any way. It's just something that happened to him.
Just a day in the life of a New York cop. I mean, I enjoyed it. Just like I said, I thought the camera was cool. Like the way that you kind of strapped a camera to a car and buzzed it through traffic, and the way it was cut. I really liked it, but.
The reason it was done that way was because they couldn't set up all the cameras because they didn't have permission to film there. So whenever it's on the hood of the car is where they're ducking and weaving through real traffic.
It works, I am seeing here in the trivia that Popeye shooting Agent Mulderig didn't happen in the real life case, but the advisor Eddie Egan, was the inspiration for Doyle, agreed to it, saying he hated the real FBI agent that he played.
Okay, so I did. Later on in the trivia, it does say, so the movie is like a dramatization of a book that is about these guys, the real case that they did. So there's a book that's based on the real case, and they took that as like the inspiration for this. So those guys, a lot of the people who were the real people that the characters are based on were advisors on the movie. But there is stuff like that, right, that make it not a real story where it's like, he didn't actually shoot an FBI agent. But they did hate each other, Yeah.
Great. I mean, so here's what I was getting at earlier. So there's, kind of a twist at the end, right? He doesn't get, it seems like they have the guy, like, they've got him, right? They did everything they needed to do to bust him. And then the guy absolutely just gets away, which is interesting. I think it's very much like of the time, kind of what movies were turning to and going towards, like darker movies showing like the bad side of life and anti-hero characters and like sad endings where it's like, oh, everything worked out bad and everything sucks, So it's kind of interesting in that way. Like most cop movies, you're going to make the bust at the end, And even like the cheesy kind of end credit stuff is like, this guy barely served any time, this guy barely served any time, nothing happened to him, and so I don't know, it was an interesting way to finish the movie off, but it kind of reminded me, not the Taxi Driver doesn't have the same kind of ending, but it has that like gritty real life New York sort of feel to it, where you see like the bad side of New York in that time. And so I get why it kind of lives in the story of film and stuff. What I don't get is why it beat out a bunch of really good movies for a bunch of Oscars. I thought it was like a pretty good cop movie, but not like an elevated, really masterful, like the same era. You had movies like The Godfather where you're like, whoa, that was so awesome how they told that story, and this one was like, this was pretty good. I was surprised. It has 5 Oscars. It beat out movies like Clockwork Orange and Fiddler on the Roof.
That's what I was going to say. Did you look up by any chance the movies that came out in 1971?
Yeah, so Fiddler on the Roof, The Hospital, Sunday Bloody Sunday, The Last Picture Show, which I haven't seen most of those, but those were the movies that were nominated for a bunch of things that year. But Clockwork Orange
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is the most popular movie from that year. Dirty Harry came out that year.
I do like this
Really?
movie more than the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I just don't like that old one that much. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'll have to rewatch it. I just remember disliking most of the music, and like, while Gene Wilder's great
This
in it,
movie,
as a whole,
I will give you the same. So what I told Tiffany at the end of the movie was, it feels like a student film. Yes. It feels like it's somebody trying to figure out how to direct and edit. And like, oh, we don't have the like we can't spend any money on music or like really any editing, so it's just Johnny, because his dad has like one of those like old tape editing machines, so he did the editing, and he kind of messed up a few of the scenes, but it's like we don't have multiple scene or shots of it, so it's just whatever. But like, all of the editing was just like, it cut, and it's like none of the scenes seemed to impact each other in any way, if that makes sense. Like, it didn't feel like the story progressed.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, like, we talked about the intro where it's kind of like, I mean, aside from like the shock factor, that guy just got
until
shot
the
in the
second
face,
time I
there's
watched
nothing
it,
about that scene that was like, oh, this really.
I wasn't even clear on
movie,
that he got shot in the face until the second time I watched it, and like several of the trivia facts make it a big thing about it, like shot in the face or something. I'm like, but that's not even clear. It happens so fast. Also, apparently, there's a hose visible like right below his face that sprays all the red paint on him. And so like, and I thought the same thing you were thinking of, like, is this? But I was like, but like, you could take movies like, I didn't really like The Shining, but I could see like it was very clearly a very well made movie. I just don't like the tropes, but I recognize that if that was the first time I'd seen a movie like that, I would probably feel different. Yeah,
right.
Like it changed. It's different.
Interesting and different. Yeah. There wasn't anything in this movie that I was like, oh, that's where this came from, or this must have been the first movie that did that. I mean, aside from like the cheesy post-credit, but I'm sure that existed before, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there wasn't anything that was like, oh, this is where this comes from. I don't know, maybe the pork pie hat? Gene Hackman wearing a pork pie hat? Is that? Yeah, I don't know. So I did like it. Like, I liked a lot of things about it, but there was a lot of confusing things about it, and like you kind of mentioned, it didn't seem that well put together as far as like the pacing and like how they edited together the story. It didn't. I feel like they could have cut a good bit out of it. I kind of enjoyed like the tailing scenes a little bit, where it's like seeing three different people try to tail one dude through the city was kind of fun. Like, there were some cool things about it, but if this was like I don't know, like a cop show, I'd be like, oh, that was a good episode. If this was like a 3-part episode of NCIS or whatever, I'd be like, oh, that was pretty cool. That was a good, but it didn't need to be as long as it was, and there was some fluff, and I didn't need to watch a guy shucking oysters in France.
I don't know.
I was like, whatever. It's fine.
No.
There's a cow mooing in the closing music. Did you catch that? What was that? Did you? I heard a cow mooing in like the closing credits music. And I think it's mostly instrumental, but I swear I heard a cow mooing. I was like, what is happening?
They wanted like a cowbell sound, but they didn't have a cowbell, so like, let's just go out, find a cow.
They like went out to record some cows, and they're like, no, these cows have bells. Did you bring
They're
a bell?
supposed to have
I thought
bells.
they have the bells on them.
Like, it does. Yeah. I mean, I wanted to like it because I for the last, like, we've had a good run of me really liking the Cody's Corner movies, but this one I just like.
We've been on such a good tear, and it just, this one wasn't.
It's such a similar, like, disjointed, all over the place, like, editing style and storytelling style. It's just similar to The Conversation, where it's like hard cuts and it's impossible to understand any of the dialogue, so you have to turn on the subtitles and stuff like that. But like, The Conversation built to such like this, like, what's gonna happen kind of a moment, whereas this, I didn't ever really feel like there was a ton of twists. I was like, oh, so as soon as the French guy went a different direction from everyone else, I was like, oh, so he's getting away. Like, he's definitely going to escape. and something's gonna happen where they're gonna be like, there never even was a French guy, was there, or something like that, like, which I think could have been an interesting angle for
Yeah.
them to take. Would have been like to somehow try to make the twist like,
Oh, what if
oh
it was never a
yeah,
French guy and it was
yeah.
like the federal agent was
Which I
dirty
was
or
like, that
something
could have
like
been a
that?
twist. I
Ooh,
thought
that would have
when
been
he
cool.
rounded the
Or
corner
what if
into the
Popeye's
basement and
partner
like
was dirty?
Sal came out
Ooh.
and they faced each other for a second and just started talking like normal guys. I thought for a second, I was like, oh my gosh, Cloudy's dirty. But then it was just him trying to maintain a cover, which I'm like, look, cops. I understand that, you know, some, maybe not the brightest, maybe he didn't do the best in school, maybe not the brightest bulbs, but if you run into a guy you're tailing in like 8 different spots throughout the day and try to act like you're supposed to be there and you're a different person, the jig is up, like they know they're being tailed by someone, like you're not being sneaky when you're just like, oh yeah, my car, it's around here somewhere. And it's like, weren't you just at the coffee place that I was at talking to me? Stop talking to the guy that you're tailing, and stop like sprinting after him the second he leaves the building. Like, you guys are bad at tailing. And I thought to myself, I was like, there was a moment in the movie where I thought, man, police used to be really bad at police work. Like, they're getting, like, I think about like how detectives do this kind of stuff now and like how carefully they'll set up like these stings and like how many years will go into something like this versus like how this depicts the thing based on a book, which is like a retelling of a real case like this. And I was like, man, how did they catch anybody for any crime back in the day? Like,
Yeah. I enjoyed them busting the people in the, I don't know, drug bar or whatever. I just like seeing all their paraphernalia. I'm like, what even is any of this?
well, I mean,
It's like, I think that's just a chapstick. I don't even know. It's like, what you got here? And then he's like messing up all the stuff. And
I mean, that's
like,
what he's doing. He's just he's shaking them down, But I did, which that's what I was.
But I loved all the stuff they had in their pockets. I was like, man, remember back in the day when people just carried tons of stuff in their pockets? Now it's like phone, wallet, keys. But back then
like,
it
if you
was
got
like,
more than that in your pockets, it's like, oh, so it's drugs, That's. But I did think it was funny, like, like I said earlier, like it's just a bar filled with people, nothing in their pockets but oregano and Tylenol, because that's like, it was so clearly like Tylenol pills and like little dime bags of oregano, which I was like, that's such a like. It's movies like this that all the cop movies from the 70s and 80s are the reason that people have like gone to jail because they had a thing of oregano in their bag at the airport. But
yeah,
it's funny. I did like them like going through the whole thing where they like grab the guy and he like throws him into the bathroom, and then they're like, because as soon as he like threw him into another room, I was like, oh, so that's like an informant or like another cop or something, right? Them talking.
yeah.
Yeah.
I pulled up a couple posts in Reddit because I googled. I googled why is there a cow mooing in the French Connection, and I got a bunch of cow stuff. So then I put in like French laws about cows. So I googled why is there a cow moving in the movie The French Connection, and I pulled up some Reddit threads of people complaining about why is this movie good. So I'm reading through some comments, but this guy's basically like, I just watched this, and can someone tell me what I'm missing? Because I usually like the gritty 70s New Hollywood stuff, and I didn't. And a lot of people are kind of saying, it's one of those that's been emulated a lot since then. So at the time, it was groundbreaking and interesting and new, and since then, it wasn't. Like, people talk about the cinematography. Someone talk about it like, it was shot in like a documentary style, like some shaky camera work and stuff like that, and kind of the dangerousness of the car chase scenes and stuff like that. I was like, okay, cool. This guy's talking about like interesting for like Popeye Doyle to be like a bad dude, like as like an anti.
He's bad news, but a good cop.
This guy likes that the movie doesn't over-explain itself. I would say, kind of like we said, there's a lot of fluff in there
where it
that
doesn't
makes
need to be, and like potent, no explanation where you kind of need to explain stuff.
I don't know. Yeah, so I mean, it seems like it's a lot of people are like, oh, I really enjoyed it for the time, and some people kind of agree with us where they're like, it just isn't that good. But, you know, I saw someone else post something with Chinatown too, and I kind of felt the same way. I watched Chinatown, which is, I think, from a similar era, Jack Nicholson, detective guy, which I liked, but didn't feel the same way as when I've seen stuff like The Godfather. So, I don't know. I'm trying to see if there's anyone else with some other insights, but there are quite a lot of people that like it. Some people like it for its guerrilla style of filmmaking, which is, you know, like we talked about, just driving through traffic and
yeah, you know, that's my favorite thing. You know, well, that was my favorite part of it. Here's the thing that, you know, because I remember talking once, and you know, I've brought this up several times to, and I think you're one of the people. Have you seen Citizen Kane? Okay, so you're not. But I remember talking to, specifically, the first person I heard this from was someone who like went to school for film studies, right? Like they got their degree in that. And so they like, of course, at some point watched Citizen Kane. And then I've heard it from other people who just took the class, right? Because it's an easy elective, because it's watch movies and write a, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Watch
right?
movies,
so, I mean,
and write short papers about
so,
them.
but it's somebody who's like,
about them, and that's it. Yeah.
What they wanted to do is kind of like what Hollywood Rob does. I think they wanted to go into like editing and stuff. So they like had to critique movies and stuff. And he's like, yeah, we watched Citizen Kane. And he's like, yeah, everyone else was sitting there like, oh, it's such a groundbreaking movie. Like it changed Hollywood forever. And this is why it's so amazing. And he's like, then it got to me and I was just like, yeah, so it's a bad movie, right? Like, it's bad. And then like a bunch of people were like, yeah, I mean, it's not good, but it was for the time. He's like, yeah, but it's not a good movie though. Like there are better movies from the same time. And like,
mm-hmm. Yeah. And we've talked about it a bit. Like movies have gotten better over time, like I think as a whole. And even when I look back, right, like I keep track of all the movies I watch in theaters, and I'm on A-list, so I'm at the theater all the time. But like even my list last year, there were some movies I didn't like as much as I wanted to, but like there weren't a lot of like truly bad movies I saw in the theater. Some I get some fatigue because I watch so many movies, and I have kind of, you know, I have a different palette than maybe the average like moviegoer, but like even the movies where I was like, oh, it's going to be a bad movie, I go into them like, actually, that was good enough. It was pretty good, you know? So I don't know. Movie, I think it's come a long way since then. But to your point, you know, I can name a dozen other gritty 70s movies that I might have enjoyed a lot more than this. But I mean, you know, people seem to say online that it was groundbreaking for the time. And since then, it's been the format for a lot of movies since then. And now we have like a dozen different procedural cop shows that, you know, do all these things that have become tropes of the genre, you know? So I don't know. I did like the movie. I didn't love it.
Also, you know? Thinking like,
wasn't quite there.
I feel like cop movies have also, I mean, obviously kind of fallen out of fashion, but they're also like, when was the last time a really good one was? So I pulled up and it's the 50 best cop movies of all time list as of 2022, and I sorted by release date. Mm-hmm. So the newest one to come out that's on this list is Hell or High Water. And then, you know, if I sort it by like the list order, but the number one, so good, but you don't like number one on this list, right? Was it you that doesn't like The Departed?
The Departed? No, I like The Departed. I'm one of the weirdos. Like most people are like, that's not a very good Scorsese movie. I'm like,
I like The Departed. Like the first time. Now, okay, we won't spoil The Departed, Cody. But the first time I watched it was at my brother's house, and he was like, "Oh, this is such a good movie," and I was like, "Oh, I've never seen it." And he got the most excited I've ever seen Lee. You know Lee. You know he doesn't get excited. Most excited I've ever seen him. And so we watched the entirety of that movie on a whim. Okay. And so I won't spoil it, but there's a moment where, you know, if you're into the movie and it's the first time you watch it, you're like, what the heck? Like, what? You know? And I think for like, I don't know how long leading up to that, but when I turned to look at him, he was just staring at me. Like, he's like, oh yeah, no, I've seen the movie 100 times. I know what's going to happen. He was more interested in what I was going to say about it. but it's one of the most mind-blowing twists that's
Yeah.
ever been in a movie, in my opinion. Right? And so, but
Yeah.
fundamentally, right, it is very similar. It's just like the editing is better, but like there's not a lot different. In fact, that's like, you could argue that's a way more boring movie than The French Connection is. Right? There's way more action and stuff happening. But I felt like the stuff that was happening in The French Connection,
Yeah.
again, like it just felt like none of the scenes linked to each other in any way. The only part where I felt any kind of suspense or like anything was impacting anything else was when they got the car. Like, was all the stuff around the car towards the very end of the movie. Because they got the car, you know, they thought they caught the guys that were coming to get the car, but they
Yeah.
were just going to steal the tires off of it. And then they're tearing the car apart, and he's like, I know it's in there. And then they realize, like, oh, the weight's wrong. But then it cuts to the guy. Like, that part's edited really well and, like, does kind of ratchet it up, because then it shows that, like, French actor guy who imported the car, you know, at the police garage saying, like, hey, this car, they said it got brought here. I want my car back. And they're like, it's torn to pieces, you know? And then they put it back together. And so, like, from that moment to the bus is pretty good. But everything before that kind of feels feels like 60% of that could have been cut out.
Could have got there a little faster, cut out. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you said, the editing could have been much better. They could have really pieced together the story in a way that was a little more fluid, because it does feel a bit thrown together. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm looking at this list. What's kind of interesting is it's just a dude's opinion, right? And he put 50 movies together, but you can sort it by IMDb rating, which some of the movies are the same, but some are different. When you do IMDb rating, top movie, Silence of the Lambs, and then Seven, then The Departed, then Heat, then Reservoir Dogs, No Country for Old Men, Die Hard, L.A. Confidential, Fargo, Blade Runner. It's kind of interesting what's in this list, and like, where does The French Connection land?
You can also sort it by votes, which is like people who get to this list voting things up the list.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. So then it puts...
Really? Where's that? Number of votes. What's first on votes?
Yeah. I mean, Seven, Silence of the Lambs, Departed.
It's actually really similar.
Those three are some of the best cop movies ever made. Right?
Yeah, those are
Blade
great
Runner.
ones. Man.
Mm-hmm.
All right, French Connection. Where does it land? Oh, when it's by votes, it's 37 on the list. I mean, being the 37th best cop movie of all time, but being 50 years old,
Super Troopers,
you know, not too bad. Interesting.
It is a good one.
Hot Fuzz is on here. That's a good one. That's an awesome one because it's like a genre. It's making fun of the cop movie genre, but as like
Rush Hour is also
serious,
on there,
but also
which is the same kind of vibe.
That's interesting.
Right?
That's a cool one.
Yeah.
Yeah. 21 Jump Street.
It is good.
Hot Fuzz is so good, dude. That's what you don't understand. That's what, if anyone listening here needs to understand something, is that Hot Fuzz is a great movie.
What was the thing we were talking about where it was like, oh, but they
need,
he would need an action star, and you're like,
his best work.
Yeah. What's the guy's name from Hot Fuzz? Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg. There we go. Yeah, it's like, you got Simon Pegg. He needs a sidekick. Nick Simon Frost, Pegg. Right there. You know, it's like they're not gonna put Simon Pegg in. The closest he will ever get to a serious like action star role is Star Trek, and he nailed it. He was perfect. Like, I have no doubts that he would do it. But are you kidding me? That's not getting past any studio executive. There's no way. Yeah,
I mean, he's in the comic Mission Impossibles. As the nerd guy. Yeah.
I like to imagine that he's also the comic, like the one person on set that will roll his eyes at stuff that Tom Cruise says, but I don't know if he's that kind of a guy in real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hot Fuzz, look at this cast. You got Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, of course. You got Martin Freeman and Bill Nye. Who else?
I think you're the one who convinced me to finally watch it, and I was mad at you for not convincing me sooner. It was good. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, it's probably Edgar Wright's tightest movie, aside from maybe Scott Pilgrim. But it just
Isn't
like
so he made it was Hot Fuzz,
like
and
no
then they made
notes,
the zombie one, right? It's the zombie
just
one.
a lot of fun.
Shaun of the Dead. Okay, so it was
Yeah,
Shaun of the Dead and then
Hot
Hot Fuzz.
Fuzz, and then At World's End.
Okay, because I love that there's like several shots in Shaun of the Dead
Yeah,
where he
Shaun of
tries
the
to
Dead
do
was
something
first.
cool, and biffs it, and then there's shots in Hot Fuzz where he succeeds at doing the cool thing, like jumping over the fences or like doing like a cool move, like when he's fighting someone or something, like.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh, that's funny. It's a good. It's I don't know, called whatever. I don't know, something. I'm sure it's some. I don't know. I never took a film class, Cody. That's your job. I don't know. Like I'm sure it's called something. I'm sure when you reference an older a movie that you made, but it's not actually like the same character or universe. I don't know. You're the one that went to school.
Yeah. What is that?
You're the one with the degrees, Cody.
Oh. I don't know.
I'm just a dumb engineer. Also, though, I mean,
Right, I'm in a hole of this. I'm on the front page for Paul. Simon Pegg, Nick
Paul,
Frost
that's
movie,
a treasure of a movie.
Starring them,
they got people out here. They talking bad about Paul. It's a good time though. Paul's one of those good time movies. That's one of the movies that, I mean, you can watch it sober. I did, but I'm like, you should get high and watch it, right? Like that's one of those kinds of movies. Like it deserves it. Okay, if it's legal, if you're in a cool state.
Yeah, I mean, you got to keep it legal. So there you go. Anything else to say about this one before we rate it? There's good stuff about it. Like, there's cool. I mean, it's one of those that it's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you're old and like cop movies, then you might love it. Like, if you're young, there have been much better, more suspenseful detective thrillers since then, like Seven or Departed, or what's the one we said? Silence of the Lambs. I mean, Silence of the Lambs.
I'm sure somebody would be weird about it because it's FBI movies, and not
right?
Like cops. You know, but like, let's be real. You know, but I mean, also,
plus there's a girl in it.
Silence of the Lambs is a movie. You know? Like, you know, what's his face? You know, the guy who plays Hannibal really stole that whole movie. You know.
That's what's funny about Silence of the Lambs is like it spawned a whole like horror movie thing where people are like, "Oh, Hannibal, he's like a," and you're like, you know, it's not even about him. That's what's so weird. Like as a supporting actor with like 3.5 scenes in the movie, he's not even the villain of the movie. He's, you know, it would be like if we were in a Batman movie, you know, and I think this was originally the plan for Batman 3, the Chris Nolan series, was like Joker was gonna have like a little side role or a side scene in it. You know, it would be like if we were in a movie where it's like Tom Hardy is our villain. Anyway, do you want to watch Heath Ledger eat for 10 minutes and steal the whole movie from him? You know. Oh, man. Anyway, if you haven't seen Silence of the Lambs, you gotta watch Silence of the Lambs. But also watch Hot Fuzz, because Hot Fuzz is more fun.
You know,
Silence of the Lambs.
I was looking to see if, like, maybe was this like the director's first movie or something? It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't even his first, like, theatrical movie. It was his, like, fifth. You know, and they get, to his credit, the ratings are better each movie.
Yeah.
And then he directed The Exorcist, and then it's downhill from there.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap it, because I need to help with the baby.
No, but all right.
But I'm going to rate it. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1.
B-?
It's a B- for me.
That's high, don't you think?
What's it for you?
Don't you think that's a little high, Cody? I mean, don't you? I just want you to give you the chance to maybe respect yourself a little more. I mean,
no,
I'll give it.
I have to go. What are you rating it?
I'll give it a D. I didn't like it. I mean,
D?
I thought it was a bad movie.
Is that a little low? All right. Tyler, you wrap us up. I'm gonna come back and beat you.
All right. Do you want me to roll the device, or do you want me to wait for you?
You take us home. Yeah, I can't.
All right. I'm gonna divine the next film while Cody goes and helps his baby. I guess guy poops out a baby, acts like it's the most important thing in the world to him. Doesn't even care about poor old Tyler anymore. But I'll be here for the fan, and I will divine the film Silver Linings Playbook. So yeah, and then I'll just do a little Google so I can pretend like I know what the movie's about. Let's see. After losing his job and wife and spending time in a mental institution, Pat Solana, Bradley Cooper, winds up living with his parents, Robert De Niro and Jackie Weaver. He wants to rebuild his life and reunite with his wife. That rhymes. But his parents would be happy if he just shared their obsession with the Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, gross. Things get complicated when Pat meets Tiffany. That's my wife's name, Jennifer Lawrence, who offered to help him reconnect with his wife if he will do something very important for her in exchange. All right. Oh, wouldn't you like to know? So is it Bradley Cooper? Is he going to kill Jennifer Lawrence? Is that the...
No.
You know it.
What's it called?
That's the one. I read the synopsis.
Silver Linings Playbook.
That listens to the podcast.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you to experience.
They did
this.
talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, and I made a sound to disapprove of them.
Love it.
No.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Go Birds!
About them Chiefs, though.
I mean, they're out of it, and they suck, but go Birds. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Why can't they make a movie where the people are fans of the Chiefs?
That's what I like to hear. I know. Yeah. I guess they made Looper. That's in Kansas City. Don't talk about football in that one, though. Looper's a football movie. If it takes place in Kansas City, it's a football movie,
I mean, I feel like we're good. I mean, I didn't do the outro thing because I don't actually ever remember how you do it.
Oh. Well, want to thank everyone for listening. Rate us, review us, share us, or don't. We don't need you. Cool to make money, though, we're doing it for the love of it. For the love of it, you know what I'm saying? Okay, fine. Rate us, share
and have opinions.
You can hit us up on socials. Until next time,
we've been doing this for like 15 years or something at this point. Like maybe I feel like $5 is. I mean, it's fine. I'm still recording. Cody stopped his recording. It's just me and you, audience. Pay us money. Send it to us. Send me stacks of pennies via FedEx.